give a warm welcome to Marci.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim, for that introduction. I'm still laughing. You know, it is an honor for me to be here. I love Living Word. I loved working here. I used to come to the Winners Luncheons way back when Pastor Mac used to do them all the time. And so anyways, I'll try. I have so many stories with Pastor Mac, so I'll try not to tell so many, okay? A little bit about myself before we get started today. As he said, I am originally from Nicaragua. And when I was 13 years old, we left because of the Somoza revolution that happened. It was a dictatorship of like 66 years. And then communism came to the country and we fled to Dominican Republic in 79 when I was 13. So we lived there for about 7 years. And then my dad is an attorney and a composer. They lost everything. My mom was a stay-home mom and then became an entrepreneur. And while we were in Dominican Republic, she started a business, which is how we could come to the United States legally. So we got working visas, and so I came here in January of '86, and only because they met people in Dominican that lived here that wanted to help the family. So then my turn came, in January of '86. We all came. It took us a year to reunite the family, and so I've been here ever since. I started my career in banking in June of '86. So I'll stop there for a little bit, and I wanted to share that when I was 11 years old, my parents sent me from Nicaragua, which I don't know if you know where it is, but it's in the center of the entire continent of America. They sent me to San Francisco, California to learn English. And it was during the summer vacation in Nicaragua. You're off of school from November through February, so don't do this at home. I was too young. It was really almost traumatic, but it was to learn English. Now I heard that if you learn a foreign language by the age of 10, you don't have an accent in that language, but I learned at 11, so I missed the deadline. So now you know where my accent is from. I speak fluent Spanish, and there you go. I used to do presentations and everybody would wonder the whole time that I was speaking, so I want you to pay attention to what I say and not wonder where the heck I'm from. I'm from Nicaragua. So, okay, so today, we are going to talk about how to discover, leading by maximizing talents. So when I was talking to Tim, I said, why don't we do this? I have an idea. I want to talk about how to discover and maximize talents as an employee, as a person, okay? As a self-employed person, as an employer, as a leader, and as a manager. So what I'll do is we'll go over each one of those and I'll give you tips and I'll share a lot of experiences of how I discover my gifts and how I help my employees and the people that I've led discover their gifts, maximize and create great teams so you can have a successful company, which in turn helps the bottom line, okay? So, but first I want to talk about what are talents and gifts, and think about each one of these words is a special word. So talents, I looked it up, it's a special natural ability or an aptitude, okay? And a gift is simply a gift, it's free, it's something that you didn't earn. And I really firmly believe that God gave us gifts to all, with no exception. So the questions are how to maximize and discover your own gifts. So ask these questions. Do you know yourself? And do you know what talents you have? And are you polishing and using your gifts to be the best that you can be? And then are you also helping other people to use their gifts? And also then, do you know the talents of the people around you? Not just at work of your employees, but also the people around you. If you're a volunteer, do you know their talents? How do you get them out? Okay, are you developing your gifts and then the gifts of others to help them be the best they can be and then to be the best that you can be? Are you creating the most effective teams once you know what those gifts are? There's several tools that I've used myself, and sorry, I have to check. I want to make sure that this is clicking right. There's several tools that I've used myself to get to know myself well. And for example, one of them that I really like is the Strengthsfinder 2.0. There's a book that many of you probably have heard of by Tom Rath, is the Strengthsfinder 2.0. And the whole concept of this book is to discover the raw talents of yourself and then those people in the company. So then once you develop those talents, they can become strengths. And the whole concept is once you form teams using their strengths, everyone's going to be happy because they're doing what they're loving to do, what they're good at already. And then you form complementary teams with people that have different gifts, and therefore you're going to have very teams. And that is the whole idea with that. The Myers-Briggs is a personality assessment that I'm sure several of you have done as well. Mine is ESTJ. You know, the E stands for extrovert, and you know how they give you the little map. So extroverts go to this side, the introverts go to the other. My extrovert line bleeds off the page. So now I know I'm a super extrovert and I don't care anymore, right? So then actually what I do is, sometimes I share those things so people get to know me, okay, with employees or with people that I'm going to work with. The DISC personality assessment is another one. They do color themes. So it depends on the color, and then you team up people with different colors. And then another one that is coming out lately that I've been hearing and reading more about is the emotional intelligence, the EQ. And there's some research that actually they have numbers that say that people that have a higher emotional intelligence, higher EQ, perform and actually make more money with salaries than people that may have a higher IQ, they're smarter, but less EQ, a lower EQ. And the whole thing is to learn to manage your emotions, to know yourself and then manage those emotions to have better communications, get along better with people. And so I recommend to do those things and get to know yourself. But other things to consider are, what types of organizations do you work best at? I discovered somewhere in my career that I work best in a smaller organization where I can wear a lot of hats. If you put me in a big company, I get lost, and I like to make decisions and work with different people, different departments. So the size of the company is important. Where do you feel the most comfortable working with? What type of leadership or management style do you work best under? Where do you flourish? So I think if I ask you the question, you would answer, yeah, no one likes to work under a micromanager, right? Because they drive you crazy. I worked under one once, and I thought I was going to need a psychologist because I could not do it. So also, you have to know, part of knowing yourself is, are you a leader or are you a follower? And I'll never forget, Pastor Max said this, and I don't know if he said it at church or at a winner's luncheon, but he said, if you think you're a leader and there's no one behind you following, you're just out for a walk. And it was perfect. I will never forget it, and I give him all the credit because it's true. Some people think they're leaders, but they're not. To me, leadership is a gift. It's actually in the Bible, Romans 12:8, I believe, where it says, if you have the gift of leadership, take the responsibility seriously. So I know I do have that gift, and I do take the responsibility seriously. So now I'm going to switch. I want to share with you how I discover my gifts through my working life and also as a volunteer, okay? So I started using 4 gifts that are complementary gifts, and that is the leadership gift, communication, the time management, and extremely organized, the organization skills that I have. And I think there's a friend of mine that told me, he said, God gives us complementary gifts. And that's when I realized the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. All of these gifts that I have, I'm using them together. There's no way that without those gifts, I would have been able to start a bank or to do the Y2K project when I first came here to Living Word. In fact, it was Diane Jamar, some of you may know her. She's the one who hired me when I came here. And we had back then 330 employees, same number of computers, hundreds of types of software. And I came here, and Diane and I created that position out of nothing. I'm like, Y2K project manager. We made it, right? We're all here. We made it good. But I remember also they sent me to a pastor's conference in Missouri. There were like 600 pastors, and I was supposed to talk to them. I don't know if you were there, Tim, or not, but Pastor Mac and Lynn were there, and I was more nervous about them being on the front line than the other 598 people. Because I was so new, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to talk to pastors about Y2K? But it worked out great. I remembered and kept thinking, I know about Y2K, they don't, so I have something to share. So that's what got me through. But then also, because of using those gifts, I have been able to form collaborative teams to help me with those projects and starting the bank. And then also picking, I'm good at getting your gifts out of you and then say, oh, okay, there's a great opportunity to have you use your gifts here or there or there. And then I started forming teams with different skills and talents to get us through. Also, my volunteer part of this is I also found out that in my job, I wasn't able to use all my gifts, which is the truth probably for everyone here. So then I decided I'm going to start using my leadership gifts and other talents that I have and started volunteering in boards. So I've been on board since 1993 in different nonprofits, but that's how I learned. Not only I did it with the purpose of sharing my gifts, but at the same time I learned and acquired new skills and new talents that I now use for other things. So I always say, okay, so a good example that I have as far as knowing your gifts and what you don't have, also the gifts that you don't have. So I said, if I were a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, for example, I would not volunteer to build the home. I can't build anything. I would volunteer to be on the board. In fact, I always kid around because I say, if at home I need a picture hung, I tell my husband, and I say, honey, can you please hang this picture? And if weeks go by and the picture is not hung, all I say is, honey, I'm gonna go get the hammer. And that picture is hung like in 5 minutes. Because I would probably make 15 holes, including, until the right one. I don't measure anything, I just go by whatever. So then I would volunteer as a board member, okay? That's where I would give out of my talents. The funny thing is, a friend of mine just invited me to go build a home in July with Habitat for Humanity. So I may just do the drinks or something. I don't think I can, I don't think they should give me a hammer. So, like right now, another example is I'm the chair of Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Twin Cities. That's where I'm using my gifts. So I have found out my gifts and I'm using them. I also love to connect people, and I'm always asking people, where is your heart? There's plenty of nonprofit organizations where you can align your heart with their mission and go volunteer, either hands-on or at the board or wherever. So I'm always connecting people. So again, what to do as an employee, okay? We're still talking about how to discover all those gifts that you have. So the questions to ask yourself are, what are your interests versus your passions? I think we have both, and they're different. So for example, I am interested in photography. My husband is passionate about photography. And for example, when I was at the bank and before I left, I told Reed, my ex-boss, I said, just because I'm good at all these administrative behind the scene things, I said, that doesn't mean it's my passion. I'm good at it and it's a gift, but my passion is people. I love being with people. People energize me and I love helping others and connecting people. It's all about that, building relationships, and that's what my passion is. So I also did this exercise. If you've never done this, I recommend that you do this. In your job, whether you're on your own company, in your role, whatever position you have, make a list of all the tasks that you do and then rate them and say, okay, everything from what I love doing to what I hate doing. And regardless of your position, I can guarantee you'll find some activities that you don't. And that's how you get to know yourself, okay? So the next steps in getting to, okay, remember, we're finding your gifts first and we want it to work toward how do we maximize those gifts, okay? So some of the things that I've done is I self-disclose with my managers, with the leaders of the organization. I give them the opportunity to get to know me, and I did the same thing with my own employees when I was the leader of the team. And there's something that I did before I did there's another talk that I do, and that is leadership and negotiation tips for women in the workplace. And just for fun, I went to my resume and counted the number of positions that I've ever had and how many times I got promoted and how much I've negotiated. And so here's my career in a nutshell. Okay, 13 years in banking, 5 years in nonprofit here at Living Word, then 10 years with the bank startup, and then the last 2 with my own company. And So then I decided, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've gotten promoted 11 times. I have created 5 different jobs. So again, have gotten different titles that I came up with. So the whole point is, once you know yourself and you know what you want, create new opportunities. Don't be afraid to do that. And initiate the conversation also with your managers and your leaders. So I have 2 examples. One, when I was at the Marquette Banks back in 1995, Marquette Banks was the first bank in the Twin Cities that offered online banking. So I had an idea. I told my manager, I said, how about if I'm your salesperson, I'll go out and I'll install the Quicken or Microsoft Money in the customers' computers. I'll teach them how to pay their bills, and I'll teach them how to download information and do transfers and all of that. So I wrote the job description and they approved it. That was one of the greatest, more fun jobs that I've ever had still. I still have friends, lady friends that I met back then, and they're like, I can't leave the bank because I love paying my bills online, and they love doing it. So that was really exciting and fun. And then the other example is, and I don't know if you remember this, I was in cash management, okay, and I was pregnant. This is in 1990, yes, he was my boss. 1990, yes, 91. I was like 8 months pregnant. My son is 6'5", okay, I was pregnant. He was like 9.5 pounds, 23 inches long. So I go to his office and I'm like, so I stand in the door frame, I'll never forget it. So I said, I'm gonna have kid number 2, which means I'm gonna need more money, which means I need a promotion. And I think in this department, we need a new customer service representative. And I already wrote the job description, and I'm your best candidate. And he's like, silence. I think he was speechless. And I got the job. I guess you don't say no to a pregnant woman, right? So I got the job, and it was awesome. And so the whole point, you get to know yourself, you create opportunities, you share who you are and about yourself, and you initiate those conversations. What was the worst that could happen? I was employed, So anyways, that worked out awesome, and I love that job. So now, what to do as a one-person show. So now I'm on my own, okay, 2 years. And because I know myself, okay, I know what I don't have, the gifts that I don't have. So the key is to outsource everything that I don't know how to do. So in my case, for example, the marketing materials for your company, people know how cheaply they're done or how well professionally done they are. So I hired a team of people. I'm a writer, so I wrote my marketing materials, but then I had a marketing person make them professional marketing materials. And then I hired a web designer and a lady that was my designer for all my brochures and everything. That is not my gift. And then also a web developer, and now I hired a tax accountant. I've always done my taxes. I like that. I like numbers, but they got a little bit more complicated now, having my own business and all of that. So then I decided, it's time to let the experts do what they know best. So then with the books, it's the same thing. I'm a writer, but every writer needs an editor, especially when it's your second language. Sometimes I write like I'm talking in Spanish still. So they're like, whoa, these words are not in the right order. So, and I say the word that also because in Spanish, that's a connector of thoughts, and in English, you don't need it. So that's, from my first book, I think I deleted 1,000 that's. And it's still painful. I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyways, you need an editor. So the whole point is, brand development, all of that, that's not my gifts. I know what my gifts are and what they're not. So now let's move to what to do as an employer and as a manager, okay? So help other people, your employees, discover their gifts. It is an amazing thing when you trust your employees. And I have to say, there's 3 people that have helped me with that. Of course, my husband, he lets me be me, and he lets me flourish, and he allows me to do all the jobs that I've had. And then there's Reed, my boss, who believed in me, who saw these gifts and asked me to start a bank from scratch. I mean, think about that. Not every banker gets to start a bank, and for a Hispanic woman, immigrant, to start a bank. So that was huge. So thank you for believing in me. And of course, Pastor Mac, when I was here, he allowed me to flourish and use all my gifts. And so there's people like that in your life. So if you have that ability to allow your employees to flourish under you. I tell you, I did the same with my employees, and what it created was an extreme sense of loyalty from their part to me because they were always growing, they were always learning. So challenging them is huge, you know, getting to know them. There is a book called First Break All the Rules by this guy Buckingham and Kaufman. And I love that book, but there is one, and then they say a couple of things that are the highlights of that book. One is treat all your employees fairly, but not equally necessarily, because you as a manager, you have to adjust yourself to them. They have different styles. What motivates one person doesn't motivate the other. One wants to be recognized in public, the other one, don't you dare say my name. So you gotta do that, okay? But there was one rule that I did break, and that was I did create friendships with my employees. I even knew their dogs' names. I knew their kids' names. I knew all about their lives. In fact, now even after I left the bank, I'm auntie to like several of my employees' kids that are like 3 or 4 kids have been born, and I'm Auntie Marci, you know. So I do create those friendships that last a lifetime, and that has been super rewarding. Then, so my biggest, one of the things that I like to share is my biggest accomplishment as a manager has been not that I opened a bank, not that I published a book, it has been that I've never lost one employee because of me. They say, you know, the manager is one of the biggest reasons why employees leave the company. And to me, that has been a huge reward for having developed these relationships with all my employees, getting to know them one-on-one. And I actually had one employee that was a challenge because she wouldn't let me get to know her. And it's not that I have to be best friends. It's the same when you're a parent. You know there has to be this boundary, this fine line between I'm a parent and I'm your friend. And I know how to deal with that. So with this person, I said, if I don't know you as a person, I said, you're not just my little employee, my little machine at the bank. I said, if I don't know you as a person, you're going to miss out on opportunities that I'm going to have that I could potentially give you because I don't know you. I don't know what other things you like besides working at the bank. So I really recommend that you try to do that. It worked out great for me and I love it. So now let's move on. What do you do as a leader? Okay, so once you know yourself, you know what you have, you know what you're missing, then get to know your employees. Again, now you know what you have around you. The next step is now you can create successful teams because you're gonna know the different gifts that different people have in your team. And then, for example, when I created the team at the bank for enterprise risk management, most of them were my own employees because they represented each different area, but something beautiful started to happen at the bank. These people started caring about the other areas and understanding each other's areas, and the IT guy learned about finance, the finance person learned about HR, the HR about credit. Do you see what I mean? So the different areas started interconnecting and integrating together as really one team that was working together for the bank. So make decisions, be compassionate toward your employees, and also be passionate, really passionate. Okay, Minnesotans do not show passion. So I had to do it for myself and all my employees together. So I'm like, I know you're excited. I'm really excited for you. I know. Okay, so just let it out, people. These Minnesota people, I tell you. So, in conclusion, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about why you need to know and maximize your gifts. I really believe we're all here to help others. You just have to find your niche. And I always say, well, who do you want to help? Everybody needs help. Do you want to help the little people, the babies, the battered women, the poor, the rich? I don't know. There's enough people in the world to help. And when I left Living Word, I told Pastor Mac, I said, you know, some people are called to distant lands and places. My mission field is corporate America. That's where I feel that God needs my gifts. And I got great training being in ministry and being outside of ministry. So now I feel equipped. That's where I feel equipped. You guys are my audience, working people. I finally was able to summarize my mission in one sentence. My mission is to help working people be successful. It's actually pretty simple. So I'm an encourager. That's one of my gifts. So I want to be out there. I want to encourage people to find your gifts, polish them, and use them to help other people. And then you're successful, they're successful, and your company will succeed as well. So then what I'm doing now is I'm doing the 3 things where I feel that I'm connecting all my gifts, which is one of the reasons why I wrote my second book last year, this one, The Fire Within, Connect Your Gifts with Your Calling. And I told my husband, this year, this is 2015, this is the year to publish this book because finally I'm going to do what I'm saying. And the purpose of that book is I want to encourage you to find your gifts, polish them, use them to help others, because when you do that, you are going to automatically find, and it's already things that you love doing, what you're good at, and then you find your calling, your passion, your mission. I don't know why there's so many English words, but it all means the same, okay? It's why we're here. I have to learn all these words. So anyway, so in my case, now I'm doing the 3 things. I'm doing consulting because I really want to help other companies. I started with banks because that's my expertise, but I have nonprofit experience and I can help companies with 3 things: strategic planning, risk management, and talent management. And then I'm also speaking because I believe that's a gift. Sometimes people say, oh my gosh, I'd rather die before speaking. That's where I get energized. I actually get nervous about this clicker thing. Is it clicking? Am I saying it right? Did it say click or click? Whatever. Anyway, so that's what makes me nervous, not speaking. That's the fun part, and getting to know you all. So consulting is one thing, speaking, and then I speak to different audiences. I speak to bankers and business people. I speak at women's conferences, leadership, negotiation skills, and then I speak at churches as far as like integrating your faith in the workplace. I think there is the right way to do that, to share your faith without being on people's faces and not be ashamed of being a Christian, right? Because we're still in a free country. We're still free, right? I already escaped. I lost one country. I hope I don't lose another. That's all I'm going to say. And then writing. So then I started writing actually in 2004, the year that I was my last year here at the church. I told my husband, it was actually his idea. I said, I want to help encourage other working women to be successful, and to also try to achieve balance, because I think that we can do both. And then I said, if I don't start writing, I'm going to explode. And he's like, why don't you just write a devotional? And I'm like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So then the next day he comes home and I'm like, honey, I wrote 5. I think he was kidding. And then I wrote 5. And then, so this is that first book the devotional for working women that I wrote. And then I found out from my dad that my grandfather was an author. I never knew. He published like 15 books in Nicaragua, in Spanish, of course. And I actually tried to read them, and they're so deep in Spanish, I don't even understand those. And I'm like, now I have to relearn Spanish. I'm like, what the heck? So anyway, so I found out that I have it in my blood, right? So I'm a writer. And then the third book, as you know, okay, so I left Nicaragua when I was 13, and I lost my friends there because there was no Facebook, no email, none of that stuff. And then when I left Dominican Republic when I was 19, I disconnected from all my friends again. And some of them actually I never saw again, because during the war, people go everywhere, wherever you could flee to. And then when I came here, I've been here 30 years. And so I really treasure friendships. And then that inspired me to write this cute little book. And because I also appreciate other people's gifts, I did it in collaboration with my sister. So it has a collection of 50 photos of her original paintings and 50 friendship poems that I had been writing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, let's do this together. So I put it together like in 3 weekends, and it was so easy. So again, I'm using all my gifts. I want to encourage you to use your gifts, and don't be afraid. What do you have to lose, right? You don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow, so we might as well use them today. So that's what I'm doing. And now what I would like to do is I don't know how many of you have heard of Susan Boyle? Okay, so today you have the pleasure of seeing the video. Again, it's about 5 minutes, and then we will conclude. I want you to observe the faces and the gestures of the people as the video starts. Okay, so I'll just stand here and wait. If you don't have goosebumps right now, you're dead. That's all I can say. Isn't that amazing? So the whole point is, why do we need to discover our gifts? You may have a superstar in your midst and you're missing it. And so the whole point of today, is to encourage you to find your gifts, polish them, use them to help others, but then also find the gifts in others and develop those gifts. And then from there, we can do everything. You know, we're here to do God's work, fulfill our calling, but we can do it together. When we have all our gifts together, working for our own individual calling, then we can do it. So that's all I had today. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.